Today we are going to be making a book style light throne. Assassins are the ones that can use these. Reference my Throwie design video if you want to get fancy at all. So, light thrones, minimum of 2.5 inches, maximum of 6 inches. So I have just sketched out a square that's just a smidge under 4 by 5. And then I've rounded out these corners just for safety. So once you have your stencil and it's all cut out, we are going to use, I'm going to use puzzle mat. You can use the blue camp foam that you find at Walmart. You can use any sort of camp or any sort of puzzle mat you like. I prefer the Harbor Freight puzzle mat because it has this small grain rather than the big diamonds. But it doesn't matter a whole lot because we're making something so small. So for this, you need your puzzle mat, your stencil, a Sharpie for tracing, a box blade for cutting out, packing tape, optional, but I highly suggest it because it waterproofs it. And then you're gonna want fabric tape, cloth tape, that is not black, not brown, because this thing, as soon as you throw it, it is so small it is going to disappear into the grass. So white is usually the best one, oranges, bright fluorescent colors, and then of course you need scissors. I have already traced my stencil onto my foam. I'm going to do 3 layers. That's my preference. You can do it thinner or thicker if you so desire. So with the box blade, you want to stick it out as thick as your foam, or maybe a little bit less, so that you don't start digging into your table. And then you want to follow this line as close as possible. You can go slow, you can hit it a couple of times. You just want to trace our line as close as possible. This tutorial is assuming that you do not have access to power tools. The way that I do my throwies is that I will cut them out rough like this with all this extra foam, glue them together, and then I will run them through the bandsaw to get a nice clean cut. But I started out making these on the balcony of my apartment, cutting all of them by hand, so I know the feeling. Pop this out. Another important thing is you want to try to keep the box blade straight up and down as you cut. If you start to wobble it side to side, you will cut in or you will cut out, and then you'll make your cuts uneven. Moving on to the next one. I also find doing as many straight lines as you can and then coming back and doing the curves helps a lot. So I'm just doing the straight sides on all 4 sides, and then pull that off and then come back and clean up the corners. This will dull out your box blade super fast, so I always keep a bunch of these around. So now we're starting to see something. It's not perfect. You can absolutely take more time, make this cleaner, but you are going to hit the human limitation. Don't drive yourself insane trying to get super clean cuts, because all super clean cuts you see on other people's stories are done by power tools. And we are also going to cover these with tape, so it won't be so obvious. Alright. Should start taking shape. Look like a little book. Stack those. We're going to take our packing tape and we are just going to do a nice layer all the way around. This is going to waterproof it. Also keep it together while you're working. This is a really loud noise, so I apologize. Usually try just sticking the tape. Also, you don't want to compress it all you want to do a very, very light pressure taping, just kind of draping it. And do it slow so you can fix the movement in your layers. Some people say packing tape on projectiles hurt. I honestly think a wet projectile hurts more than a packing tape projectile, so I packing tape my projectiles. So I did all of them in one direction. I've missed the edges. I'm going to go back and go that way. I might do one long ways. Let's do that. All the way around. Long ways. And then we'll do this way as our last direction. Starting to look like a Throwie. All right. Cloth tape. Something important to note about cloth tape is the more ends you have exposed, the more it will fray. And what I mean fray is that if you've seen anyone with a Throwie that has like a bunch of little tape ends just kind of sticking out because it's worn over time, we are going to try to avoid that by terminating as many ends as we can in one place and then doing one more strip over it. So, how do I want to do this? I'm going to start with these edges. You can also do multiple layers of your tape if you don't like how see-through the lighter colors are. I don't care. White's going to get dirty immediately. I don't care what it looks like. You can also sew a cover if you're feeling particularly handy. I think tape is the easiest. So we ended this here. I'm going to try to put another piece of tape over it. We want to cover as many of the ends as we can. And then we are gonna, let me finish this so I can show you. I did this laying over where we stopped and started here, and then we are just gonna pivot a little bit and move down. When you get to these corners, you might have to sit here and lay this tape down so it looks pretty. You're never going to get perfect taping on curves unless you do this 8 hours a day every day. I have not reached that point. So last pass. Lay your corners down. Try your best. Man, this tape is tough. Black stuff's usually easier to tear. Another thing you can do, if this end of your tape keeps popping up, is hit it with a little bit of super glue. Not enough to make it hard or crusty, just a little bit of super glue. And here you go. Let me grab my weapon checker and we can check this real quick. My weapon checker wandered off. They seem to do that, but cover needs to be non-abrasive. This is pretty soft. If you hit yourself in the face with it, it doesn't really hurt. This cannot cause significant harm. This is super duper light, so it's not going to break any bones. It's not going to poke anyone's eye out. I had to go check my numbers real quick just to make sure I was giving you the right information. It is 1.5 inches into a 2.5 inch ring. So if you don't have a weapon checker, but you have 2 rulers, measuring tapes, whatever, you find your 2.5 inch cross sections, and then you measure, making sure this perpendicular line is not more than 1.5 inches. So like I said earlier, it's about 1 inch. This line's 1 inch, so it hits right there. Rotate, find our next 2.5 inch cross section, perpendicular, goes a little bit more, but it's not 2.5 inches. You want to check all of your corners just in case you were a little bit inaccurate with your measurements. So that's a little bit more than 1 inch, but it's not 1.5 inches, maybe 1.25 inches. One last corner. Exactly 1 inch. So we are good. This is a legal Throwie. You can put more tape on it if you don't like how stripy this is, but like I said, it's going to get dirty immediately, so it's not going to look pretty for long. Another important thing is make sure your name goes on it, your park, your kingdom, wherever you're taking it. Make sure it can get back to you because these things disappear immediately. And then anytime you make a new weapon, you need to take it to your champion before you field it. Make sure that they test it. And make sure you did everything right.